Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, and his parents are dead. Whose parents? PlayArts Kai's Batman, based on his appearance in the pretty darn cool video game Arkham Asylum. Voiced by Kevin Conroy. If you're even thinking of doing the Bale voice, you're just, let's keep going. Much like his in-game model, Batman's got a few striking textures on the surface of his uniform. His suit is covered in scales, his sleek armor plates are marred with dings and scratches, and the remaining cloth elements are wrinkled quite naturally. The head sculpt is pretty strong between his angular cowl and grim expression. I love how tall the ears are, and they aren't too bendy or misshapen either. However, the sculpt of the throat comes across looking a little weird to me. The Adam's apple is too separate from everything around it. All of these elements are brought together by an incredibly good paint job. Not just in the palette, but in the varied finishes of the colors. There's a cool gloss on the armor, a matte finish on the cloth elements, and a slick mid-range shininess on the bodysuit. With the decent airbrush-style shading on Batman's musculature, this color work kicks up the visual strength of the figure's presentation quite a lot. I am the Knight. Batman's head is on a double ball-jointed system that allows it quite a cool range of motion, even though it ends up with this kind of gap on his throat. He's got a very posable Adam's apple, one of the most posable, pronounced Adam's apples I've seen in a while. And this is a really cool range of motion. There's all these, what feel like double ball joints, like a ball with a stem between them. Moving down to his torso, he's definitely got them going on in here. He's got one up here, and then one, there's one on the ab, and then one at the waist. And the thing about these is, it's really easy to get them looking all crooked, and it looks like Batman's been drawn by Liefeld or something, and it's easy to fix this. You just gotta mush them all back in place, but due to the lack of click, you do get smooth motion, but you also get a potential for having to adjust things. By the way, this piece, it's a loose rubber piece that's over top of the crotch joints. This thing also, when you're moving stuff around, this can get misaligned in some really hilarious looking ways, so you just want to keep an eye on his central torso block. Now his arms look like they'd be kind of limited, but this stuff hanging over top of them is actually quite soft. It does prevent some motion going all the way up. It's kind of hard to get Batman to have his arms coming up like this high without stuff starting to pop apart because you're pulling up and this is pushing down. His actual shoulder joints are pretty simple. It's a ball socket into this really cool forward shoulder hinge. This is a really neat joint that I quite enjoy, and it still gets some use even when this thing is down. It actually helps push against this stuff, and this thing helps cover up the big hole that would be left behind in the back of the sculpt when using this joint normally. And then you've got this universal joint here with a bicep swivel. No double-jointed elbow, but it does get 90 degrees, and I'm okay with that. It also has a bit of a weird Reveltech click to it. Similarly, his wrists, I believe, have a similar click. Similar. Yeah, just a little bit of one. And like Figuarts, it's a hinge that you can then move around and swivel this hand on, so you can have his fist going like this, or swivel it like this, and his fist is going all like, yeah! As for his hips, it's a pretty simple ball socket system. Big-ass balls down there in his codpiece, with a thigh swivel. The range is pretty good, and due to all this stuff that does look a little bit loose now and then, it also means you get this freedom of motion. His knees are double-jointed. This is the PlayArts Kai thing that most everyone talks about. When you bend his knees, it looks alright. There's a bend up here as well. It's pretty clicky, but then when you bend them all the way, it looks kind of funny. That's not what human knees look like when they bend. This is a PlayArts Kai thing. It's an eccentricity of the line, and it's something you kind of have to accept at face value when you get into these guys. Now, the thing that this does, which feels like this is so very intentional, is there's sculpting on this internal joint that matches up with the knee pad sculpting up here. So no matter how you bend this, the knee pad is always kind of present. So it feels like you're actually supposed to bend this top joint first for the first few times, and then bend the bottom joint afterwards. It's interesting. I mean, once you do this, you're kind of like, yo, Batman, how long is your knee? I think the trick with PlayArts Kai is just to be very careful with the joints, and if you're going to do a double bend like this, you kind of have to play for the camera, as it were. And it doesn't look too bad when it's back here, but then when it's over here, it starts to look kind of funny. And if you want to bend the joints normally, like a little bend, like using the top joint to reveal more of that sculpt, adds this kind of natural feel, but you can overdo it. I don't know. I don't hate it. It's definitely something that you need to be aware of when you're getting into PlayArts Kai. I don't think it's bad, it's just a very deliberate choice. Kind of like Revoltech when they stick Revoltech joints in everywhere, even when they are kind of unnecessary. PlayArt's Kai feels a little bit similar. Finally, on the ankles, there's a clicky ankle joint, and you get a bit of swivel in action, so you can have him break his ankle. There's one other joint, actually, I almost forgot. Back here, there are 2 cape pieces. Now, what's cool about these is how much play they have. Like here, it looks kind of like Batman's got a regular-sized cape on. And then if you want, you can splay it out to be a bigger-sized cape. And all of this stuff is flexible enough to be able to do this without really resisting too much. The way that these 2 pieces are mounted up here are via a pair of universal joints, stem into the cape, stem into his back. There's a hinge, and then you can turn any of the connection points. And it's a really sturdy joint. I'm actually kind of impressed with this cape, because it can hold itself out pretty far. It's going to weigh him back when you do this, of course, but I'm kind of digging the options with this cape. Also, because the cape is so rigid at the bottom, it bends out of the way when you push against it, but it can also serve as a kind of tripod for Batman. So he's standing on a toe. He's not standing on one leg. I couldn't get it to work. But doing this kind of thing, it means that this cape over here is able to serve as a kind of tripod in a way. And it's sort of neat. It helps balance him also when you can't get the heels and the soles of his feet totally flat to the ground. Whoa! So I kind of like the posability on this guy. It's not obscene. It's not like figure arts level, but there are a lot of joints, and there are not too many limitations in using them. And I feel like a lot of the things like the cape here, or even, in a way, the design of these knee joints kind of can help you out with some posing ideas, even though they offer their own, as I said before, eccentricities that may not quite suit your taste. Batman's got an extra sculpt option for each hand, aside from his basic fists. His left hand can be open and a little bit curled, while his right hand can be in a fusion posture of pointing and gripping. Both of these hand sculpts can work with his 2 handheld accessories. His alternate right hand is built to use his grapple gun. It looks really cool, but doesn't do anything other than hang out either on the floor or in the grip of the bat. He also comes with a non-folding batarang. It works beautifully with the right hand, but can also slip into a couple positions with the left hand as well. The final piece of extra kit is an alternate left half of Batman's cape, sculpted to be sweeping forward and around his left leg. This is actually attached to him in package, and offers a great way to tweak the expressions of the figure's posing options. It's also pleasantly easy to switch in and out, given that either cape half pegs right onto the stem of the joint that connects them onto Batman's back. This is my second PlayArts figure after Naked Snake, and while I'm still getting used to the size, on his own I really am digging the Arkham Asylum Batman. His posability offers enough poses to satisfy me, his accessories aren't very numerous but do just enough to justify themselves, and his cape design engaged me a lot more than I expected. If you can deal with the size and design eccentricities of PlayArts Kai, I'd say this Batman's worth a look. At his core, he's a solid action figure. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and it's hard to look at a Batman without turning around to see a Joker right behind me. And, I think one is right behind me. This will be quicker than that Hot Toys thing, I promise.